to order. I will first make a request for any bill introductions. Do we have any bill introductions from any committee member or any one in the committee meeting room or anyone on WebEx? Yes, Senator Pyle.
I may have the last communication I've had with the reviser. I think it's ready, but I would just ask Jason to talk to Matt Sterling, and it's an SCR concurrent resolution, and the purpose of it is to, when we're under emergency declaration, would be to give the people the right to petition to call a special session. And right now the governor can call a special session and the legislature can petition also for a special session, but the people have no power to do so. And so I know that I've seen the latest draft of it, and I think it's ready for introduction. I just haven't got confirmation from Matt, but if Jason would talk to Matt, he would have that language. I would like to introduce that, please.
Mr. Thompson from the Revisor's Office, is that something you can do, that you could talk with Mr. Matt Sterling of the Revisor's Office regarding the Senate concurrent resolution that Senator Pyle was referencing?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Jason Thompson with the Revisor's Office. We were having a little trouble hearing Senator Pyle. I think, based on what I did hear, he's asking about the Senate concurrent resolution from Matt in our office concerning petition for a special session. And if so, I do have that RS number and I could share that with the committee for the record, but I just want to confirm that's the right one.
Senator Pyle?
I'm sorry, I wasn't close enough to the microphone, but that's correct, Jason. Yes.
Mr. Thompson, could you then give us the RS number and a brief
Yes.
description of the title of the concurrent resolution?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Jason Thompson again. And thank you, Senator Pyle. That was much clearer. Good example of leaning into the mic for everyone. So this would be Senate concurrent resolution amending Section 5 of Article 1 of the Constitution of the State of Kansas, allowing for a petition process to call the legislature into special session during a state of disaster emergency. And the RS is 0367.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson and Senator Pyle. Without any objection, the concurrent resolution is so introduced. Do we have any other bill introductions from the committee members or anyone in the committee meeting room or on WebEx? Seeing none, then I would ask for the committee to review the minutes that have been provided to you for January 11th, 12th, and 13th, 2021. And do we have any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, then is there a motion regarding approval of the minutes? Senator Baumgardner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we approve the minutes from January 11th through 13th.
Thank you, Senator. A second from Senator Thompson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. All opposed by saying nay. The motion passes and the minutes then are approved. We'll then move committee to final action. We're proceeding to final action on Senate Bill 3, which is something we heard Tuesday of this week, and we'll ask Mr. Revisor, Mr. Thompson, for a bill brief real quickly. Thank you.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. This is Jason Thompson with the Revisor's Office. Senate Bill 3, you'll recall from the other day, is the bill that creates a certified drug abuse treatment program for people on diversion and also allows county and district attorneys to enter into agreements with court services or community corrections for supervision of those people placed on diversion. There's a new section that creates this program. It's limited to certain offenses that the offender could have committed who have no prior felony drug convictions. The diversion is completely within the discretion of the county or district attorney, whether to grant that diversion, whether to revoke that diversion, et cetera, just like under current law. And then there are some amendments allowing for a memorandum of understanding between a county or district attorney and the chief judge of a judicial district or a community correctional services program to have a memorandum of understanding where they arrange for supervision of those folks placed on diversion. And I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Committee, is there any questions for the revisor? Seeing none, Senator Gossage.
As a non-attorney, could you help me understand diversion?
Mr. Thompson?
Thank you again, Madam Chair. Generally speaking, diversion is just a pre-conviction process. So you've been charged with an offense, and rather than proceed to convict you and sentence you, you are placed on a diversion where you're subject to conditions of release and subject to that diversion being revoked, where you could then be charged with the crime or prosecuted for the crime, I should say. You've already been charged with it. So it's essentially a step before a prosecution and a conviction, a way to avoid a conviction potentially.
So someone commits a crime, they've been charged of the crime, and then they, during this diversion process, they're saying, if you do this, then maybe we won't be as hard on you. Am I understanding that correctly?
Mr. Thompson?
Thank you again, Madam Chair. Yes, generally speaking, the consequences of a conviction are more severe than the consequences for a diversion in most cases. And so in this particular bill, the diversion we're talking about, you have an offense that is a low-level drug offense, a possession offense, and you have no prior convictions for a drug felony. And so you are being offered an opportunity under this bill to enter an agreement with the county or district attorney, not be prosecuted for that crime, and then enter a treatment program and a supervision program. And if you comply with that, the charge would then go away and you would have a diversion rather than having a conviction. Versus if you are unable to complete the treatment and supervision program successfully, you could then be prosecuted for that crime and convicted of a felony, which carries consequences, of course.
One more question, if I may, Madam Chair.
Sure.
And then, so then this bill is asking that the state help pay for these treatment programs? Or is there already a bill that, or there already a law that does that and we're amending that? Forgive if I'm being ignorant on my question here. I'm just not trying to understand.
Thanks for the question, Mr. Thompson, if you can answer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll do my best. I think it is an excellent question. There is some concern about the funding of the treatment program. I think you heard from the proponents and the other conferees that there is what is usually called the SB 123 program. That was the bill that enacted it years ago. So there's a statutory program that is for drug treatment. And these folks would be able to participate in that program, which does receive state money. There are also provisions in the bill about paying a supervision fee to pay for the supervision aspect of this bill, which is separate from the treatment aspect of the bill. So yes, there are some state funds involved. Some have already been provided. I think you heard from some of the conferees that more may need to be provided because you'll have more people in the program than you have now. Hopefully that is on the right track for an answer for you.
And then finally, Madam Chair, we have a fiscal note for this, correct?
Yes, Senator Gossage, that's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee for Mr. Thompson? All right, seeing none, is there a discussion on the bill? Committee, we're going to stand at ease for just a moment. Thank you. We're Back on the bill, committee, I have an amendment to propose. If the committee assistant will share that with the committee members. And it does address a little bit of a question about the funding. Thank you, committee. This is an amendment that was brought to us by one of the proponents. And if we could then call that proponent to the podium, and please identify yourself and welcome to the committee, and offer a little bit of explanation about what the amendment does.
Stuart Little, Kansas Community Corrections Association.
Would you make sure you speak clearly into the microphone so all online can hear too?
Yes,
thank you.
Kansas Community Corrections Association. When I testified the other day on the bill, I'd included in my testimony the fact that divertees is the term from the bill, who are admitted to this program pay a supervision fee, and part of what is to be determined is who will do the supervision of these offenders while they're on the diversion program. And it can be community corrections, which is a county function, which are county governments, or it can be court services, which is through the court system and through the OJA. And so the way the bill was drafted was collecting a fee from everybody who participated in the program, and that's in the bill, and it sent the money to the fund at the Office of Judicial Administration, but there was no means for those fees to go for the community correction side who may do the supervision, so that cost for that would fall on your county governments. So what I came up with a non-lawyer, simple, everyday person suggestion for an amendment to make sure that if depending on where you were supervised, those fees would be sent to the supervising agency. Mr. Thompson, in all of his expertise, pointed out that we are changing the law, so he spent his magical words putting together this amendment that you have, and he can certainly explain the amendment, and I would agree that what this would do would create a means for and again, this doesn't have to happen, but this is if the chief judge in a judicial district, the county or district attorney, does come to an agreement on who's going to do the supervision, wherever that goes, that's where those dollars will kind of follow that person in the program, just so they have an opportunity to cover some of the cost. I'd be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Little, and we'll back up, and if Mr. Thompson could explain the amendment. Mr. Thompson, we're not hearing you if you're speaking.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Jason. Yeah, this is Jason Thompson with the revisor again. In screen sharing, it's a little harder to unmute. So we're trying out this new procedure from some experience in our office with other committees where I've emailed the balloon that you have a copy of to Iris, and hopefully that can go out to our distribution list. But for anyone watching the YouTube feed or on WebEx, hopefully you can see my screen. It looks like it's working, and you can see the text of the balloon amendment in front of you. Very briefly, this is more of an appropriations issue, so the language is very particular to how we deal with moving money between funds. So I'll give credit to our other revisors for actually giving me this language. Essentially, it would say that notwithstanding how these funds are normally spent, money that comes from these diversion supervision fees into the correctional supervision fund will be accounted for, and then the Chief Justice, who controls the expenditure of those funds, will have to certify the amount received under these fees and the amount that should go proportionally to community correctional services due to how many of those divertees they are monitoring. And then the final piece of it is that once that certification is made by the Chief Justice, that is given to the Director of Accounts and Reports in the Treasury, and the money is transferred from the Correctional Supervision Fund, where the fees are placed, into the community corrections account of the state general fund of the Department of Corrections, which is where community corrections can draw the money from. So a lot of mechanics to get to what Mr. Little was describing. That's what the amendment would do.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Committee, are there questions for the reviser? Senator Pyle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jason, since you have the notwithstanding any other provision of law, what are we superseding? What processes are underneath that now that this will have the top standing?
Mr. Thompson?
Thank you again, Madam Chair. Essentially, the notwithstanding needs to be there because under the statute creating the Correctional Supervision Fund, there is no division of the funds. It goes into that pot of money. There are certain statutory things that it can be spent for. And so the notwithstanding language essentially treats this money different than the other money that's in that fund. And that statute, if anyone wanted to look it up, is KSA 21-6607. That is the statute that creates the Correctional Supervision Fund and currently collects all of the supervision fees for folks who are convicted and placed on supervision. And the mechanics in this bill mirror the mechanics in that bill, where you pay a fee, part of it goes into the SGF and part of it goes into this Correctional Supervision Fund. And the percentages are the same actually under both this provision and the current law provision. But the extra bit here would say, notwithstanding what you normally do with the monies in this fund, here are extra accounting and certification procedures that will divert some of that directly to a community corrections account in the state general fund. Hopefully that answers the question.
Senator Pyle?
Well, to some degree, yes, but it's not getting into the specifics. So evidently we are, with this amendment and the notwithstanding, I understand the priority is given here, but I would like to know the specifics of where those other funds currently are going that now this would be a priority over. Is that outlined very clearly in 21-6607?
Mr. Thompson, are you able to answer that question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll try. I don't believe it's outlined too specifically in 21-6607. I'm looking at it again, and it's the typical, monies credited to this fund shall be used for 1, 2, and 3. It's not, directed at a specific program or a specific other fund. I guess the one thing I would say on this particular fee is that it doesn't exist under current law, right? The supervision fees for convicted offenders are not affected by this bill. So all of that will happen just like it does now. This is a new fee only for folks placed on diversion who are put on supervision. And so the new fee would be new money coming into that fund, and it is being divided up in a slightly different way. So it shouldn't affect the current funds. It should only affect the new funds, even with the notwithstanding language.
Senator Pyle?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Jason. That very good answer. That brings another question to mind, though, Madam Chair. Do we have a fiscal note on how much revenue this is going to raise?
We do not have a fiscal note regarding how much this is going to raise. We do have, from the fiscal note that was provided for the bill, it does state in that fiscal note the average cost of the treatment. I don't see that it has the amount of the average fee collected. Perhaps Mr. Stuart Little could answer that question.
Madam Chair, Stuart Little, Community Corrections Association. The bill, and I can't find it, Jason may be able to find it, articulates what the fee is. I believe it's the same fee that's in the current other body of that fund, which I think is maybe, Jason can correct me, it's either $50 or $100 for a misdemeanor or felony, and what that rate might be. And I would also direct you to, these dollars are, the projection from the Sentencing Commission from Mr. Schultz projected, I think, the high end of this to be 80 people. And so a year, I believe, something along those lines. So this is not a significant amount of money, but it's kind of a principle if you're going to have these folks being supervised, that's what that is. So we'll just, it's simply a matter of what is charged the fee to the divertee would be transferred over. And Jason's description is exactly right. It is only this specific fee, not the other fees that are in that fund.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Senator Gossage?
I would direct the committee to the last paragraph on the fiscal note. And my question is that it says the Kansas Sentencing Commission estimates enactment of Senate Bill 3 could result in additional prison admissions and beds. I'm trying to understand by helping to pay for fees for having drug treatment would cause there to be more prison admissions and beds. In addition, it estimates that the bill could increase the SB 123 drug treatment offenders by either 25, 50, or 75. That I understand might make more sense because we're offering or changing how the fees are paid, but additional prison admissions and beds is a question I have.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Little, do you have information?
That's not for me. I could talk about the treatment stuff. There are a lot of issues there, and I don't want to slow this down, but the bed space issues for Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, committee. It does strike me as interesting that the division of the budget has estimated that the number of beds could increase, or the number of persons in fiscal year 2022 and additional prison admissions and beds could increase. I'm not sure what the thinking is. Perhaps it's if, persons are in the program and they don't successfully complete it, then that would possibly result in a conviction. That would probably be a question better answered by Mr. Schultz from the Kansas Department of Corrections. So what we'll do then is we will table the amendment to be heard the next time we're in committee meeting, so we can get some more answers from him. So I would direct committee members, if you have specific questions for the Department of Corrections, direct your questions to Mr. Schultz, and he can answer those, and perhaps we will have him available to testify at our committee meeting. Just a moment. All right, I thank you, Senator Haley, for the correction. Mr. Schultz is with the Sentencing Commission, not the Department of Corrections, so that was my error. So thanks for clearing that up. Other than the amendment, while we're on Senate Bill 3, are there any other discussions or amendments regarding Senate Bill 3 at this time? And if not, then we will continue working this bill, and we will work it at our next committee meeting, and we will revise the agenda so we can duly reflect that. Thank you for the discussion today, committee, and with that, we are adjourned.